Dick Durbin said that we have the greatest governor in the nation. So it's my privilege today to introduce to you the greatest governor in the nation.
Thank you all. Greg, I'm going to take you on the road with me the rest of New Jersey. Thank you all very much. It's great to see you. Wow. This is Somerset County humans? We've been working for these kinds of days for a very, very long time. It's just a thrill to see all of you here. I think you're here for a lot of reasons. I have to tell you that the story and the life and the heroism of Kevin Corzine is just remarkable. And I hope all of us keep in our hearts the kind of public sacrifice and service that this young man exhibited. It's a role model for all of us, and it's great to see your parents here. I don't think I've ever actually been in a situation where I saw a community come together in greater grief for a young man who has his whole life ahead of him, who's really doing so much for others. And Chief, I want you to know, I'm going to go, where's the Chief? There he is. I'm going to go back and look at this bill. You know, we have some benefits, but it is obviously not adequate. I think when you all think about it, when we lose 40 people in 8 years protecting us, people like Kevin, we have an absolute obligation to make sure that we stand strong with them and do those things to protect those who survive and are around them, whether it's in Iraq or Afghanistan, or whether it's in East Franklin or Franklin Township, or as you saw today, unfortunately last night, we lost a police officer in Belleville. There are a lot of people that every day look after us. And sometimes we think, you know, it is that there is not the kind of commitment to public service that there is. People put their lives on the line all the time. And I am honored to be part of a government, not Democrat, not Republican, but people who care about other people. And God bless you all. Thank you for that. But I don't mind being with Democrats either. It's a pretty good idea. And we've got an incredible opportunity. By the way, Joe lassoed me. I don't even remember wherever it was. He said, get your tail off the East Franklin and fire department. And first for the remembrance of Kevin, but more importantly to say to all of you that we have a chance in this country and in the state of New Jersey and right here in Somerset County to make a big difference in people's lives. There is a need for the kind of sophisticated and honest change that I think is being talked about certainly on television every day, but what we have to have is real change. We need to make sure that we're actually offering real help, not just transferring it onto our children's back by borrowing to the future to pay for what's going on. That's what Barack Obama's talking about. He is actually talking about paying for the kinds of things that will provide health care, that will change our energy policies so we end dependency and do the kinds of things that I think people expect government to take on honestly. It's not enough just to embrace the word change. You actually have to do something about it. And as somebody who's sitting in Trenton trying to do those things, it's not always that much fun. It is going to take a challenge, and we all, as a community, have to pull together to make that happen. And I know that's true here in Somerset County. We've got the highest growth in property taxes actually going on at the county level, as opposed to in our communities. And we've tried to help out with our school funding and other things, but you need to have everybody pulling on the same wavelength as we go across the board. So I hope you all get out and help us have a voice here in Somerset. I hope you'll help us have a voice with Barack Obama. And then there are a couple other places that I think make a huge difference. I'm going to introduce a person that I think has been fighting for New Jersey, not as long as Benjamin Franklin. He was telling me that he was good friends with him and they wrote their platforms together. But Frank's a little close to exaggeration. We have someone who has stood up for New Jersey. And I'll tell you, I knew it the minute I walked into the Senate, and when we worked together on a lot of issues after he came back to the United States Senate. Because things like Amtrak wouldn't exist without Frank's fight. Nobody. And you know, we're standing here with firefighters. We were giving out our Homeland Security dollars to political earmarks that we hear now. One of our national candidates saying he's going to end, but he was one of the first people to stand up for passing out Homeland Security dollars based on politics as opposed to risk and need. The person who changed that in Washington got more done to make sure that New Jersey gets its dollars appropriately for the two most risky miles in America between Newark and Elizabeth Port Newark and Elizabeth, is Frank Lautenberg. Nobody has worked harder to protect our interests, and nobody has a position where they can speak more forcefully about our future transportation needs, our future needs in healthcare and other things than my friend Frank Lautenberg. I need him. I tell you, as a governor, I absolutely need Frank Lautenberg down there working the Appropriations Committee so that we can get New Jersey's fair share of funding that needs to come to the Northeast states, not just to New Jersey. We all get shellacked, and nobody is working harder on that than Frank. And by the way, nobody called out, particularly the Vice President, who seemed to be running the country, at least in part of the time, with regard to the war in Iraq, than Frank Lautenberg. I think you all heard the chicken hawk routine. It's fine to send men and women into battle, but why about yourself when you go after, what is it, 10 or 11 deferments that somebody gets? We really, really need to have honest leadership. Frank Lautenberg provides that. And by the way, we need Linda Stender. A lot of you all have a chance to really help get out and work. Let's get a woman in Washington from New Jersey, okay? Please, please. So with all of that, I'm thrilled to be here. We need to elect Frank Lautenberg and return him to the United States Senate. Let me introduce my son, my hero.
Thank you very much, John Corzine. Are we proud of John? I ask you. Yes. We haven't had a governor that's worked harder, having inherited. John didn't inherit anything by way of family opportunity that you could put in a balance sheet or anything. But John inherited a situation in the state of New Jersey that few people would have volunteered for. But John stepped into the job, and after his temporary problem, and I say temporary because we admire so much his recovery and the fact that he was determined and he showed it all the way, and so it goes in his job as governor, not only perseverance but ability, and to make sure that he tells it like it is. One thing you know about John Corzine, there's no wool pulled over the eyes. John tells us like it is, and it's not easy. He said it himself, to be able to get out there and say, look, we've been in a big hole in the state of New Jersey, but we're still a very proud state. We still have excellent leadership. We still have excellent opportunity, and I'm going to lead the fight back, and God bless you, John. You've done that so well. We're proud of you. Thank you all very much for permitting us to come into the Oasis. For a long time we were forbidden the fruit of good democratic representation in Somerset, but now it's feeling good, and we're going to continue to do it. You know why we have people like Rush Holt who work so hard, and Frank Pallone, our congressman, who's one of the most courageous that we have. He said something yesterday in the paper, very bold. Said to the U.S. Attorney, pay attention to your job and stay off the politics. Frank, we salute you. And anybody named Frank can't be bad anyway. And I do want to say, Peg Schaefer, good job, but this place has got energy, you can feel it. And John Corzine, Governor Corzine, Chairman Joe Danielson, good job. Where is Joe? There he is. Energy, that's what we see, energy and believability, and we thank you for bringing that. And freeholder, candidate Cecilia Burge and her beautiful family. Where is that group of four there? So they went away? They knew I was speaking? Anyway, beautiful children, and Cecilia, we wish you well, and Doug Singletary also. With the two of you this year on the ticket, we think that we can end the GOP reign in Somerset County. And we want to say to Chief Dan Krasinski, where's the chief? Don't tell me I chased him out with my speech all the time. He's there. And as we talk about Kevin Apuzio, the one thing that struck me is heroism, putting duty above life, putting responsibility above everything else. We're very proud of him. To his parents, we thank you very much for having that kind of a light under the company. Kevin's life will go on to lift our spirits and to encourage bravery and volunteerism. And if you heard Obama's speech, Barack Obama's speech, he talked about volunteerism. He talked about those who would volunteer for public service, volunteer for the military, and how important volunteerism is. And we salute the memory of this brave young man, Kevin, and his volunteerism that brought the end of his life, but set a model for all of us to follow on. And once again, we thank you very, very much. I want to thank all of you who are my fellow Democrats and supporters of Somerset County, working to strengthen the party. Our nation's challenges are too serious. Costs are climbing for everything, whether it's health care, gas, education, butter and eggs, you name it. There isn't anything that costs less. And working people are continuing to do worse as a result for the leadership, no, I won't call leadership, for the occupancy that has taken over America for the last 8 years. I was a member of the Budget Committee in 1997 when we had a balanced budget amendment put through the law. And we gained surpluses up to $500 million over the next 4 years. And since George Bush has taken over, we increased our deficit by $2 trillion. That's what's happened. And who's going to pay for it? Your children, my grandchildren, all of us. Unless we do something to turn this country around. Look at what's happened with the mortgage crisis. People being displaced from their homes. And now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, looks like there may be a rescue operation from these corporations. Terrible, terrible management of all of these things. So Iraq, 6 years, no end in sight. President Bush has failed us on every front. Weak economy, unsafe world, people unsure about their kids' futures. I was fortunate. Yeah, I'm old enough, and I was a beneficiary of the GI Bill. So I got an education that was so far from me. My father died after I enlisted in the Army. He was 43 years of age. My mother was 37, widow. And our future was bleak. But I was able to get my education after serving in Europe during the war. I was able to get an education on the GI Bill. And it turned things around in my life, enabled me to start a business with 2 other fellows called ADP. It's a very successful company. I'm one of the founders of that company. And then to be able to serve you and have the honor of being in the United States Senate for these last 4 terms. I did step out for a breather. I thought there might be something else that I'd like to do after 18 years. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. One of the things I thought about, maybe I'd be a golf pro, maybe I'd be a skiing pro. The golf pro thing, that didn't work at all, right? But friends, in a serious moment, in that year that I left the Senate, January 2001, was the year that changed life in America forever, forever. And we see it every day. Those who perished that day, those who were punished by that terrible assault, will never forget. And this country should never forget. And one of the things that I would hope someday we can do is honor their memories and honor the change that America had to face, and memorialize it in a more serious fashion among our holidays. That we have to remember that our almost innocence was robbed from us at that time, and these families, almost 3,000, had their lives taken away, had their loved ones perish. And as Governor Corzine said, one of the things that we had to do was prevent security grants from being handed out on a political basis. And I fought like the devil until we were able to get those funds distributed on a risk basis, which is what the 9/11 Commission, headed by former Governor Kane, said we must do. So there are reasons that I'm running for re-election. It's to turn America around, to say that everyone should have health care, that we shouldn't be threatening kids, to say that if you don't have money, you can't get an education. If they're bright enough to learn, we want them to be able to go to university. It's an asset for the country. How did we build that period called the greatest generation in America? We did it because people like me were able to get an education that otherwise unaffordable, unavailable. Put 8 million people in uniform after 16 million of us served during World War II. It made a huge difference. And we have bright people, and you know, society has changed. We're a society that's more composed of an amalgamation of cultures and religions. And everybody is able to be proud of their heritage. You don't have to hide where you came from. You don't have to worry about the fact that your parents spoke a different language. You don't have to worry, and be a good American citizen at the same time. It's given us strength. It's given us vitality. It's given us energy. We see it here in Franklin. We see it in Somerset and across our state and across our country. And so, friends, I strongly, as you can imagine, support the presidency from Barack Obama. Why? Because he's one of us in every sense of the word. He took advantage of an opportunity to learn, and learn he did. And he's brilliant. And remember what the other side's doing. When you see it, John McCain don't want us to live our lives as we should, to be able to be free to do the things that we believe in, but particularly to earn a living, and not watch the people at the top gaining more of the tax breaks, which they're trying to keep on the record, so that the wealthiest among us get more wealthy, and the more modest income earners have more problems. So no, I run with Barack Obama. I am pleased that his focus is on Franklin Township, and that we'll elect all the people here. Is that what Obama's about? We're on the same ticket, all of us. We're on the ticket that says, speak up for the ordinary people, the people who built this country. You can't build a building starting with a chimney, and you can't build a society starting with the wealthy only. You have to get down to the roots of people who man the picks and the shovels and the farms and the offices. Those are the things that we're thinking about when we go to the polls. Make sure that all of your people do it. Make sure that everybody is registered. Make sure that everybody is committed. Thank you all for your courage and your energy.
I just wanted to say, I just want to tell a little story that makes me a little concerned and maybe motivates us all a little bit. Yesterday, and this has happened before, but yesterday was about the best example. Yesterday I was at the 7-Eleven in Ocean Township, which is in my district, And it was in the morning, people were getting newspapers, a couple of guys, I don't know what their background, never met them before, but they were obviously business people. And they were talking about the bad economic news. You know, unemployment was up, the stock market went down, the retail sales, you know, for the last quarter or whatever. All this was in yesterday's paper, just more bad news about the economy. And then all of a sudden they stopped talking about that, and you know, they were looking at the papers and turned and started talking about the presidential election and why they like John McCain and Sarah Palin. And I was listening to this and I said, how is this possible? These guys are complaining, bemoaning about the economy and how bad things are, and then they're going to vote for more of the same, maybe even worse. So I said, you know, what the hell? I said, I'll talk to them about it. And I said, you know, guys, what's the story? I mean, you know, don't you realize that if you elect McCain and Palin, you're going to have the same thing? The economy is going to get worse. And what I realized is that they made no connection between the two. In their mind, the economy, the economic situation had no relationship to Washington or who they would vote for president. They were just voting for the Republican ticket because they liked them better, whatever that means, and I didn't get into it. And it seems to me that's the danger we face. I just find so many people that do not make the connection between the last 8 years and the economy and all the other problems with the war in Iraq and everything else, and this presidential election. And I just think it's so crucial for us. And I know there's so much enthusiasm here today. I've never seen so many people come to a Somerset County or Franklin Township event in my life. So I know there are a lot of us out there, a lot of us that want to, you know, change, want to get people to come out and vote. We just have to make the effort over the next, I guess it's 8 weeks or so, to talk to our friends and our relatives and say, look, if you really don't like what's going on, if you really think that you want to see a change, the change is not McCain and Palin, the change is our guys, and the change is Obama and Biden. I'll just make the comment on healthcare. There could not be more of a difference on the healthcare issue between the two presidential candidates. If you listen to what McCain says, and I chair the health subcommittee in Washington, so I follow it, McCain is basically saying that everybody should go on the individual market. In other words, if you have employer-sponsored health care, he doesn't want to give any tax breaks or subsidies to your employer because you should be able to go and buy your insurance on the individual market. And Obama's saying the opposite. He's saying that's not working. And we need to have something like what federal employees or congressmen have, where everybody can buy into a national system and they pay less and they get their health insurance that way, but at the same time try to boost up employer-sponsored health care. I mean, I don't want to get into every detail, but the bottom line, these guys are night and day in terms of where they want to take the country. And there's absolutely no question that McCain wants to take us down the same path that George Bush has, whether it's economic issues, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's war, whether it's health care, whatever it happens to be, and we cannot take another 4 years. So I just, you know, this enthusiasm, let's take it, let's talk to our friends. If we do that for the next 8 weeks, we can have victory from President Lautenberg, you know, freeholders all the way down. And it really makes a difference for our country. So thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Frank. I've been involved in Somerset County Democratic politics since 1992. Each and every one of us knows that Franklin Township is a Democratic town, but I think we need to turn out such a large plurality so that way Cecilia Burge and Doug Singletary can get elected to the freehold.
As part of the New Jersey delegation and cast my vote for Senator Barack Obama to be Democratic Party's candidate for the next president of the United States. And together with 85,000 people in the Invesco field, standing there, I couldn't help but thinking of my highly improbable journey from the little girl in the labor camp with my mother in China to the student on Tiananmen Square during the 1989 Tiananmen massacre, then to college here, to a career on Wall Street, to the mayor's office in Montgomery, and now in Denver as a voting delegate. And yet, I was there in Denver, not only to witness a historical event, but to participate in the first major party nomination of an ethnic minority member for President of the United States. A nominee who represents inclusion, unity, and transformation for our country and the global community. failures that can be laid at the feet of George Bush and the Republican Party is a long one. Rarely in American history has there been more need for real change in leadership and direction in Washington. But Washington is not the only place where entrenched Republican rule has led to serious problems. Here in Somerset County, 28 years of one-party Republican control of the Board of Freeholders have left us with the highest county tax burdens in the entire country, and a county government more interested in patronage and pay-to-play than serving the real needs of our communities. Senator Obama's campaign to bring change to Washington has inspired the entire nation. Somerset County's government needs change just as badly. Here in Washington, change means offering real choices. It means governing with transparency, openness, integrity, a sense of fairness, and accountability. In Somerset County, change means shaking up the freeholder board to make it more accountable to the voters than to the Republican cronies and contributors. Change means taking real action to correct the corruption and the mismanagement at the Park Commission. Change means banning pay-to-play. Change means working to help keep housing affordable for people with modest incomes rather than giving mansions to Park Commission executives. Change means controlling taxes so that it will no longer go twice as fast as inflation. And change means helping our municipalities to provide better services more efficiently and affordably to our residents. So, as Governor Corzine said during the historic roll call 2 weeks ago at Denver at the convention, we, the citizens of the great state of New Jersey, home of the Super Bowl champion Giants, every now and then have an attitude. So let me say this today. It's time to show our attitude now in this election in November. It's time to bring the 3 decades of Republican rule, and it's time to elect Democrats to the Freeholder Board. I am so thrilled to be your candidate at this moment when the Democratic Party has its best chance in 3 decades to turn the Republican tide in Somerset County. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And how great is Cecilia? I want to first thank Joe for helping to organize this. John Graff, who's been incredible. Thank you for all you've done. What we've seen here today is a sign that the Democrats in Somerset County are back. We are back, and this November, we're going to show that not also are we going to be a force for change, but we're going to be a force to be reckoned with here in Somerset County. As I listened to his acceptance speech this past week, there was one thing that John McCain said that I agreed with. He said that the Republican Party has lost the trust of the American people. And he said that they've lost the trust when some of them gave in to the temptations of corruption, when they've expanded the size of government, and when they began to value power over principle. Does that sound familiar here in Somerset County? The very same Republicans that John McCain is attempting to distance himself from are the very type of Republicans who govern in Somerset County. For the past 28 years, they've grown complacent in the face of corruption, waste, abuse, and they have put the interest of their own Republican Party ahead of the interest of the taxpayers. And that's why we need change in Somerset County. I think that Jon Stewart said it best when their message seems to be that they're the best party to fix the problems that they themselves are responsible for creating in the first place. But in Somerset County, they've been in charge for the past 28 years. And our opponents have been on the freeholder board the longest. There is no distancing themselves from themselves. You know, Cecilia talked about some of the issues. Pay-to-play reform. Montgomery and North Plainfield have been the two leaders on that issue. We're going to bring that change to the county. We're going to stabilize property taxes. This is the first year in which the county is now collecting more in property taxes than all 21 municipalities combined. And we all know about the park scandal. And this is why this year we're going to see from the top of the ticket down, we're going to see the Democrats take control and fix the problems that the Republican Party has created. It's a true sign that Somerset County is back on the map for Democrats. It's in play, and the Republicans are no longer going to be able to take it for granted. So, thank you all for being here, and we're going to win in November, and more importantly, because it's not just about winning, we're going to make the changes that need to be changed. We're going to govern effectively, because that's what it's ultimately about. More than just winning, it's about governing, and that's what Democrats know how to do. So thank you.
Thank you so much.